VCV Rack 2. Is this the only software synthesizer you'll ever need? In my previous video, I waxed lyrically about VCV Rack 2. Today I'm asking the question, is this all that you will ever need in a software synthesizer? Is this the GOAT? That's quite a claim, I know. There are many contenders for this title, and best, ultimate, and greatest of all time are of course very much subjective terms. What constitutes your favorite soft synth may be something that I don't ever want to use. So I'll change the question a little bit. Is VCV Rack 2 the only soft synth that I will ever need going forward? If you're anything like me, you might want to pay attention. So what kind of music producer am I? I produce techno. Apart from samples, I use mainly monophonic synth parts, and I'm always on the lookout for cool, unique sounds. Cool, unique sounds are arguably one of the main features of my music. Rhythm is of course the big one. In comparison, melody and harmony aren't actually that important. Sound design is at least as important as both, if not more. You won't find me starting a track with the piano loaded into a sampler, playing and humming along, and I hardly ever buy sample libraries. And definitely not the kind that promises to deliver the up-to-date sounds of currently popular pop and dance tracks. That's not me. I'm into weird shit. So back to VCV Rack 2. What does it do that other soft synths don't do? It's a chameleon. It can be anything. This is by its nature of being fully modular. It's limited only to your imagination. And it's free. But there are other modular synths in software. Why is this one special? An obvious rival that does as much as Rack 2 and arguably more is Reactor, from Native Instruments, now on version 6. It's a platform for synth development. It has a modular system which is open to outside developers, like VCV Rack. But the interface is cumbersome, especially the modular patching. And it's not free or cheap. I just don't like it very much. Two competitors which I mentioned in the previous video, Softtube Modular and Cherry Audio Voltage Modular, do much the same thing as Rack 2. But they're not free and they don't have the same huge collection of mostly free third-party modules that Rack 2 does. How about more traditional flagship soft synths with semi-modular architectures like Spectrasonics Omnisphere, Native Instruments Massive X, X4 Records Serum or KV331 Audio's Synthmaster? Again, none of them are free and none are as flexible and all-encompassing as Rack 2. What do I mean by all-encompassing? Like I said earlier, Rack 2 can be anything you want it to be. A traditional analog subtractive monosynth, a West Coast style analog synth, an FM synth or a wavetable synth, an analog polysynth, a drum machine, a sampler or looper, and finally all these things and more combined in one patch. If you can think of it, chances are you can patch it up. The system of connecting inputs and outputs with cables is, like a physical modular synth, very consistent. No weird right-click menus, no mod matrix. Just patch it up as you see fit. And yes, I said polysynth. VCV Rack goes places where a hardware modular cannot go. Polyphonic modules, VCOs, VCFs, VCAs, utilities, etc. are connected by polyphonic cables for up to 16 voices of polyphonic goodness. And of course there is patch storage and recall, presets per module, and you can use as many copies of the modules as your CPU will allow. So, is Rack 2 perfect then? Of course not. I've been saying that Rack 2 is free, and it's true that you can download the software for free and use it without limitations, including having access to a huge library of third-party modules. But to get the most out of it, most people will want to use the DAW plugin, and that's only available in the paid version. Earlier versions of VCV Rack achieve DAW integration through something called VCV Bridge, a DAW plugin that connected to the standalone version of Rack to your DAW. That appears to have been discontinued now, and it wasn't great in any case. You need the Rack 2 DAW plugin. Not all the modules are free either, but most are, and some are beyond awesome. There are free versions of every mutable instruments module ever, of Eurorack staples like the Turing Machine, and several free clones of modules from brands like Befaco, Instro, and Grayscale. And there are many more great modules from a host of developers, some of which do things that aren't possible or practical in a physical modular synth. Rack 2 may not be the most beginner friendly. There are pre-patched patches to get you started, but to get the most out of Rack 2, there's no way around it. You will have to learn about the building blocks of a synthesizer, how they are connected, what they do. You'll have to learn about routing audio and control voltages. You will have to learn many things about many modules if you want to unlock Rack 2's potential. Patches can become very complicated and you may find yourself lost in a huge tangle of cables, unsure which cable does what and what to do next. But therein lies the brilliance of this piece of software. You will learn how to deal with all of this, and you'll explore sonic territories beyond your imagination, with many happy accidents and new creative avenues at every turn. This thing can do so many interesting things. It's a universe unto itself. Once the modular way of working clicks, there simply is no turning back. And that's why VCV Rack 2 may very well be the only software synthesizer you'll ever need.